ground running and did all those interviews himself. So that in itself is amazing and definitely shows his tenacity and determination in trying to solve this mystery. So with that, I'm gonna give you a couple of housekeeping things. Please, at any time, this is not a formal event, so at any time you need a drink, you need a snack, we do want you to get up and do that and help yourself, or flag somebody down and we'd be glad to bring you something. The genealogy room is just right next door, so if you're interested in taking a peek over there before you leave, we'd be glad to show you that. But there is a bathroom there as well. So the bathroom, as soon as you walk into this next door, first door to your right is the bathroom. There's also bathrooms downstairs as well. If you want to go downstairs, I don't know why you would want to. We got one right here. But you're welcome to do that. And there is an elevator right here in case anybody hasn't found that yet. Am I forgetting anything before we get started? Oh, put your phone on silent. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with my phone? Phone's on solid. There you go. Okay, now, I don't know if I mentioned this to the family or not, but we would like for our special guests to come up here if they would kindly do so if you feel like doing that. But we really appreciate it. Jennifer, I see you. You're a special guest. Let me read off these names here. Did everybody get a copy of this? Thank you to John Osgothorpe. He did a lot of the inviting because he knew the people, and he would say, so-and-so's coming and so-and-so's coming. I'd say, now, who is that to them? And so he wrote all that down for us. So you didn't get a little piece of paper here that kind of has a little bit of the genealogy on there. But we've got Dickie Lee, Bobby Lee, and Brenda Lee here. Do you all want to come up front? Okay, and we've got Jennifer Rich, Langford.
Wait, in case they didn't pick one of those up, Dickie, Brenda, and Bobby, they're the children of Stanley.
Okay, I could say that. Yeah, the children of Stanley Lee and the grandchildren of Newt Lee, which was Welby Lee's father. So yeah, just anywhere. Yeah. Okay, Jennifer, the daughter of Johnny Rich, the granddaughter of Edith Lee Rich, and the great-granddaughter of Newt Lee. Susan Dyer Brown and Charles Dyer. Did they come? Oh, you guys want to come up? People are looking at me like, are you really going to make me sit down? Oh, come on. You are our special guest. They are the children of LaBelle Rich Dyer, the niece and nephew of Lina Rich Lee. And Tim Turner, please. The son of LaRue Rich Turner, grandson of Willis Bill Rich, and great-nephew of Lina Rich Lee. And did Thomas Watson, is he here? Yes. Where are you at, Thomas? Oh, yeah, there you are. Okay, so we also have Thomas Watson, and he is a retired Clay County history teacher. He attended the trial of Grover Jones and the son-in-law of a trial witness, Kay Strong. And we also have some other family members of some trial witnesses.
I did not know about Linda until yesterday, but she is here.
Okay, Linda.
Linda Rich Beckley. If you like.
We got one more chair. That was just set for you.
She's the daughter of Ralph Rich, and Ralph was the brother of Lina. So Lina was Linda's aunt.
Okay, all right. So let's give these people a round of applause. Again, we just want to thank the family for allowing us to do this, and we're just want to thank you all for coming too and being a part of this event. So, and like I said, we're not really doing anything rigid, so it's very flexible. But I thought if you wanted to, we could just start with, I know several of you brought some pieces of memorabilia, and maybe you wanted to tell everybody what you brought. I know he's probably looking to his wife, right? Yeah.
Is there someone else that we left out? Like a direct descendant of Lina or Welby or Newt? I don't want to leave anybody out. I know we got.
Well, Newt was my great-grandfather.
Newt was your great-grandfather?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me. How that.
So, so Newt was my grandfather. Welby Lee would have been my great uncle.
Okay, who is your
And my grandmother is Marie.
Oh,
Marie, Lee?
No.
She wasn't,
Castile.
Yeah,
Castile.
yeah. Hobart Castile and Marie Castile.
Okay.
Hobart was her husband, Hobart Castile. Yeah, she was my grandmother, and then Mildred Castile is my mother, and she was the one who witnessed the hidden run.
Okay, so her mother was the eyewitness.
Yeah. So, neat, thank you. Do you want them to pull you a chair?
No, you're good, you're full.
No, you got out of that one. You got out of
More
that one.
comments from you. Anyone else?
Where does she live? Where do you live?
Okay.
Where do you?
Where do I live? Collierville,
So, and her
Tennessee.
picture's in that book, right? Yes, Mildred, okay. Well, good, thank you, John, for asking that question, because I would, and she's told me that twice, and it's just kind of went over my head. But yes, thank you, and welcome. And also, before we get started, she's from Memphis.
Memphis, Collierville area, yeah.
Okay, all
Tennessee.
right, so welcome. And so we're curious, is there anybody further than Memphis here? I know we've got some Nashville. Are you from Nashville? Yeah, okay. So, anybody else? Just Tennessee and Kentucky? I mean, that makes sense, but, okay. Well, we welcome you all. I mean, we just are tickled to death, that we've got people from that far away that have took the time to come. Yeah. So, is it Colleen or Colleen? Colleen, okay. You're gonna share with us what you all brought, right?
We brought the magazine, the Saturday Evening Post magazine that was published in 1967. So that was after both trials. See, the trial first in November of '64 was the mistrial. And then July of '65 was the actual trial where he was found guilty. And Dick, he said we actually attended the trial. We were there. It was the summer, of '65. I was curious and wondering, is there anyone else here that was able to attend the trial?
I know Tom, boy, you said Thomas. Anybody else? No?
Yeah.
I thought you were raising your hand.
And of course, Mildred testified, and,
She was there.
somebody asked how old we would have been. I was 17, and Dick and I had just married in November of '64, and then, he was early 20s, and, but anyhow, we did get to attend the trial. We were among the ones that went to Napier's restaurant to eat lunch, when they dismissed, that was mentioned.
Yes, it was.
But we brought that magazine and then several pictures.
Okay.
Actually, even the grandfather of Newt Lee, his grandfather, his mother and father, and then the picture of, the twins, and then Elsie holding the twins in the rocking chair. But anyhow, they're up there on the table for display.
Okay, and I know as you all were coming in, you kind of looked around at some of these things, and you can do that, once we, finish talking continue to do that, and if you have any questions, just holler at somebody, but thank you so much, for bringing those things, yes. Did you have anything else?
Well, I don't know, I told Colleen, I don't know, do y'all have the picture of when, Uncle Webb won the pine tree thing, got awards for that? He bought me a picture of that at the house, and I got it, and I meant to bring it.
Oh.
But I will bring that. so y'all
Okay,
may-
a copy of, yes.
Yeah.
We were up in the balcony.
Well, and we had a question yesterday posed to John and I, like, what was the atmosphere like? Was it people just wanting to get in to see what was happening? What was the atmosphere like?
A lot of curiosity.
There was
Oh, yeah.
people standing outside.
Outside.
It wasn't like a trial is now, they used some different language, a lot of did that I don't use now.
You know, I think, when you said that, it makes, well, not that the language was bad, but like that scene from To Kill a Mockingbird, you
Yeah.
know, kind of that is the picture that is in my mind. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I remember the lawyer says, and then I was in Annapolis and come home for it, and when the lawyer said that. I was around a bunch of people we were talking about. I thought, oh, but it was different.
Yeah. What else were you able to bring anything?
Well, not something that I can remember, you'll have trouble remembering.
Well, then we're glad to have you here. Do you wanna share anything with the group?
Well, I don't know, I feel good sometimes I'm glad to meet some of these people I ain't seen in a long time,
Yeah.
but, I study about things that happened, but I can't remember exactly how they happened.
Yeah,
But I appreciate being here.
Yeah, well, we're so glad to have you, yeah. Jennifer, what do you wanna tell us?
Well, my daddy was Johnny Newton Rich, he was named after Newt Lee, and, his mom was Edith Lee Rich, and Edith passed away when my dad was a senior in high school. And, so Lina and Will were kinda like grandparents, they didn't have children, so the nieces and the nephews were all like their children, and Aunt Lina used to like to make us things, like she would crochet us little hats for Christmas and things like that, and Uncle Webb was always a huge baseball fan, he loved going to watch the baseball games and supported a lot of that. He loved his marbles, and if you all remember, Dumas Walker, I did get to have a chat with him one time, talking about them being partners in marble tournaments and how they won this and that. Of course, trap shooting was huge to him, and, I can remember as a little kid going out here to the fairgrounds and having trap shoots, and then after Uncle Will passed away, he passed away my senior year in high school, my sister's birthday, so it was, September the 28th of 1985, and, he had cancer. Never smoked a cigarette or chewed tobacco or anything in his life, but of course, like you mentioned earlier, he had pine farms, and he loved those tree farms, and spraying the pesticides and things then probably is what we guess it might have brought some of that on, but.
And you got that big picture too.
Yeah. And, it was always, like a tradition to us as little kids, especially me and Teresa Dana before John came along, to go out to the pines and cut our Christmas tree, you know, I can just remember when those trees were, and, my oldest sister, Teresa, was born in April 61, and, there was a man, I wish he was here, I wish he came today, Butch Graves, I know y'all, everybody knows him about Butch, but it's Franklin Graves. He would talk about that a lot of those pines were planted on the day Teresa was born. So we kinda always judged them by that year, a lot of them was planted then, but, I just remember, you know, that was huge to him, baseball, going, you know, to the games and supporting people that played for years, and then the marbles, and everything he did, he was very competitive. He won the Tennessee State shoot, and, I was looking at one picture where, he's there, and I can remember him telling this story that he seen Aunt Lina, he got, you know, kept winning, so he didn't think he was gonna be shooting that many shells, you know, so he only had so many with him, and the walk to the car was like a half a mile. So, when he got up in the further part of the competition, he sent her to the car to go get more shells. And it was such a long walk that she got to the car and she thought she'd sit down a minute and she fell asleep. So he had to go back and try to find her to hurry to get back. But if you've ever been, my sons were trap shooters also, especially my youngest son, and a lot of people that was still around, that's been around the trap shooting competition for years and years, they loved knowing that connection that he was, you know, into Welby Lee, and they would tell him stories about that, and they give him the Webley trophy when he was a senior in high school, so we have that, like the revolving trophy that they had for years. It was
Yeah.
the Webley 400. But he was a great sharpshooter and a great marble player, and he loved the lumber business. He had some little quirky ways that would really tickle you. I know David Hagan and he used to shoot crap with Uncle Welby, and we talked about, he'd bring his lunchbox, and we got to go to a meal with Daddy sometime, in the summertime when school's out. And he'd come in, they first put the sawmill in, what everybody calls around here the sawmill holler, which is the bottom of Bud Camp Hill. And, we would go back through there, there wasn't like a paved road or anything. You'd go all the way back, and they had bought some land and put us an old stick mill back there, just a circle saw stick mill, just had a little roof over it. And Mama would take us back there sometimes, and they had like a board that if they had killed rattlesnakes or copperheads, they would write their name on there. And I mean, it was just full. I've got a picture of that somewhere. And of all, like they moved a stack of lumber, there's snakes everywhere back in there. But they kept buying around it so they could log and bring it down to the mill. So when I was probably about 4 or 5 is when they built the mill at Maribon, and then added on to it. But what I was getting to, Uncle Will would come in and he'd have his lunchbox, and he'd always have pudding. He liked pudding. And, he was a tall, slim man. He didn't look like he ever ate anything that was a bit fattening, but he would eat the dessert first. Whatever he had, he'd eat his dessert first before he'd eat his sandwich. He said these little things. And then he'd hang there after the meal got doing a whole lot better, and Daddy got older, and he would maybe hang around the meal till about lunchtime, and then he'd slip off and go fish, because he loved fishing too. But he loved fishing like little creeks and things. Not necessarily just on the lake. He liked going off these little creeks. And they were just really good to me and my family. And
Well, one thing she's not telling you that I'll tell you, like Welby and Lina couldn't have kids, they didn't have children. Johnny was their baby. Edith died, and they thought of Johnny as their son. And literally, they would think of it, Betty Jean sitting back there, her and Johnny they done everything for Welby and Lina, was just there for them all the time. And these kids growed up with Uncle Welby. He was also my uncle, but, these kids, that was their son. They loved Johnny to death. And I know it was hard on these kids.
yes, when Daddy bought Mama a new rug to go in the house, he'd get Aunt Lina a new rug. Mom and Daddy got a new recliner, Aunt Lina got a new.
It was like Johnny was their son.
Yes.
They called him my boy. That's my boy.
And when Daddy come in from work, that's the first thing he'd do, go over to Aunt Lina and
And of
of
course,
check on
Johnny
them.
got killed in Lower Victoria. Them all.
Hard time losing a son.
We had to go through that in 93. My dad and my brother got killed in an accident. They were on their way fishing, and it wasn't long after that till Bobby's son and grandson got killed in a wreck together also.
Well, and something that you said too, and it's the reason that we're all here together. We've gotta keep these stories going. We gotta keep these stories alive. And you talked about the connections, and everybody here is connected in some way. And we've got to share that story, and that's why it was so important to, reprint this book, to share this story for another generation. Cause that's all we are, at the end of the day, is stories of our past, and so those are so important to remember.
Like now, you have to do everything, you have to do it legally. Back then, Uncle Will thought his word, and it turned out your word back then was nothing the way everything else today.
Well, I can.
But you know what?
No,
It's just,
yeah.
that's the past.
Yeah, it
It's
is,
just
yeah.
changing the time,
Yeah.
that's just the way life goes.
Can remember my grandpa, telling that you could go in the bank and get a loan, and you just
Right.
shook their hand, there wasn't
Yeah,
no,
shook their hand,
there wasn't
right.
no paper trail, but that, you're right, the word's
But
been
now
a
you
lot.
better-
You better sign your name on the
better
line,
sign
that's
your
right.
name. Right.
That's
Another
right.
thing about the book, you know, I can remember when it first came out, Uncle Welby just, he had all those books, he'd have them in the basement stacked up, and anybody wanted one, he'd just give them from me now. I don't know if he ever sold one, but the library had so many copies, and, you know, just different people would say, oh, I got it from your, well, they call my grandpa a lot of times, but he'd give me a book, we were at a sale, or buying some timber somewhere or something, run into somebody and sign it for them, you know, when the books started getting scarce, and like people had, checked them out at the library, and then maybe not brought them back and things, you know, like people wanted them reprinted, but I've heard people say, well, that book's not really grammatically correct and things like that, and I'm like, no, but I can hear him, when I read that book, you can hear him
You can
just
hear you talking.
saying this, and he wrote it just like he was
Yeah,
thinking, you
yeah.
know, and I think that's why.
And of course, they wanted to make a movie out of it, y'all know that.
No, I hadn't.
Yeah, they
It would
wanted
be
to make
a
a movie
good
out of it.
movie.
And they offered Welby quite a bit to do that, and I
yeah.
think he's got something fixed, that nobody can take that book and make a movie.
Oh, I
out of it.
see,
I know he did it then, but I think it's so many years.
Yeah.
What will
Yeah,
go with that, but I tell you what, too many people don't realize what family means, and we appreciate this so much, you do, because Webb was a special person, he done a lot for Tompkinsville, like he helped with the golf course, he helped with the hospital, they didn't have no children, and anybody that needed a helping hand, Webb was there. He was such a good uncle.
yeah.
He was just
We're so happy to hear those stories and carry that on. Susan and Charles, do y'all have anything you wanna share, or did you bring anything with you?
We did, we brought, the typed manuscript is on the table, and I brought some, pictures from trap shooting, and then some pictures of the trial, that I'm hoping some of you guys will know who those people are, because we don't. Mom was next to the youngest of 8, and Aunt Lina was next to the oldest, and so she was old enough to be my grandmother. And so they were our grandparents too. You know, my grandparents were older, they lived in Tennessee. Our dad was in the Army, so we traveled around a lot. If we were away somewhere, we'd go to Aunt Lina and Uncle Webb's for the holidays. And if we were in Kentucky, they would come to us. So we spent every holiday with them. They were definitely my grandparents. I think you would agree to that.
So even though they didn't have children, they had a huge
They had a
family.
lot of children. They had a lot of children
Yeah,
and cats for a while.
and cats.
They, talking about what she said about, a movie, Random House had made him an offer for the book, and he wouldn't let them print it because they wanted to edit it, and he wanted it in his vernacular. So that was why it reads like it does, but you're right, it's just like Uncle Webb's Boys.
Yeah.
What else?
And they didn't like that part. They
Well,
wanted to change it.
I didn't really see a lot of grammatical, because to me, it is a time
It's
piece.
Kentucky.
It's the time,
Yes.
so it all made sense to me, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but we really appreciate this and everything. John has worked his head off to get it reprinted,
Yes,
and
yes.
we really do appreciate that.
Yes, yeah, well, we appreciate you.
And I think Chuck and Tim were his fishing buddies.
Yes.
I do have a quick question for, I guess, the audience. I had purchased, actually, it's this book I purchased on eBay, because for whatever reason, I never had a copy of Welby Lee's book. So I searched and searched and searched, and I found one copy on eBay. And inside of the cover, somebody had written a note, the previous owner, and I was kind of wondering if any of you knew. This is To Pearl from Hazel, 1978. Do those names sound familiar to anybody?
I mean, Pearl and Hazel could be anybody in Monroe County.
Yeah.
Right. What's that, Pearl, To Pearl from Hazel,
1978.
1978.
That's probably, Whit Craig's girls, they were sisters.
Wit.
They lived in Jamaica.
Lived in America, possibly.
All right, well, thank you.
Earl just turned 100.
Oh, Earl is still,
Hazel.
oh, Hazel just turned 100, he said. Yeah.
I don't know how many copies he actually sold either, but I do know that I was in college at Western in the seventies, and I ran into him at the mall. He was going into Walton Books to talk to them to sell them his book, and they did.
I do hear that a lot, that he gave more books away
Oh, he did.
than he sold. And so it just goes to show the story was personal, and he didn't want it to be something where he got wealthy off of and famous, and he didn't do it for the notoriety. He did it to tell his story and his journey and finding out this mystery. So I think that says a lot about who he is, yeah. Let's see, Charles, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I'm fine.
You're good?
Yeah.
You're not a talker, huh? All right, there's your talker right there, Tim. This is Tim Turner. Tell us what you brought or anything you want to share.
I brought the map they used in the court during the trial, some more, got some handwritten manuscripts of his notes while he was doing on the book or trying to find the killer or what, but we've got that, and just several pictures. Got a Life magazine up there from 63, and his glasses up there, and just several things like that. And just, I thought Jennifer was going to miss one of the favorite points, about being an avid fisherman. I thought, boy, I was going to get to really bring that in. Spoil that for me. But Chuck and I are having a lot of good memories with him taking us fishing, and we were in on leave. My dad retired in the Air Force in '72, so we didn't get back here till then. So I missed a lot of Uncle Webb back in the day. But we would all go some creek bank. We tried to figure out where it was at, and I don't remember exactly where it was at. And we'd catch a mess of fish, and
He'd sing the crawdads and then we'd fish.
yeah. And
Did he ever cook for
we
you?
cooked the fish right there on.
He took me, I was good friends with Rob Garman. Bob Garman drew that map. He took myself, Bob, and Rob somewhere down on Barron, some tributary of Barron. We caught some brim, and he cooked them.
Yeah, yeah.
That-
Cooked them.
yeah.
It's usually my mom and dad and Uncle Willis and Aunt Shell, and at one time it was Chuck and Harold family.
Yeah. Cook right there on the bank.
Yeah, on a sandbar, just clean them, cook them right there on the sandbar.
That ran in the Stanley Lee family also.
Okay.
Stanley and Alma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was really a good example as far as how to live your life. It's just simple, and like you said, handshake was his thing. You didn't have to worry about it. His word was gold. And I've never heard or seen him mad or angry or at anything or anyone. Just, I wish we had more people like him. We miss him.
Never heard anybody say they didn't like him.
Yeah. And my Aunt Lina, she was my Sunday school teacher all the way through growing up, so we were close that way.
I remember him taking you shooting to teach, I don't know, I guess trap shooting.
Yeah, one Christmas he gave me a BB gun and we went down the basement and shot it all the whole time they was there. And then we'd go over to the pines, do a little hunting over the pines sometimes when I was in there.
Well, I asked him to teach me to shoot, and he said, that's not for girls.
All right, thank you, Tim. Thomas, welcome, Thomas. Hi.
He pointed that thing at me, hadn't he?
Yeah, your turn.
You know, I am the curator of the old courthouse in Salina right now, and I get to tell this story quite often to folks coming in to visit there. And, I usually start my story off on like a snowy evening, 1944 on a Christmas Eve, that it was all quiet at the Webley, at the Newt Lee farm and everything, and he decided bad weather was coming, and he was gonna go across the road and check on his livestock. And I think it was the granddaughter was in the house. Also, is that right, John? The granddaughter was in the house. And she was there, and he told her he was going across the road to check on the livestock. And my story as I go along, he'd been gone about 15 seconds, and wham, she heard something. And she looked out the window, and she saw a black car backing up to where her grandfather laid over in the ditch. And she looked long enough till she recognized some characteristics of the men there, had a good description of them, and I guess the way it plays in for one of the things was, my father-in-law, Kai Strong, he had a habit of coming down to Winnie Cherry's store and sitting there in the mornings, he and one of his buddies, and they would sit there and watch people come by, and they'd talk to them. And this car stopped there, and over the years, I don't think he ever discussed this with anybody, hardly at all, but when Webb found out about it, he talked to him about it, and without any prodding of any kind, he could describe the man that was in the driver's seat that morning. And he described him with his hair, his looks, and all those things. And I know the first time that he ever saw the man, after everything started, he still recognized him without any prodding or anything. And I know, like I said, I was around him for more than 30 years, but that was just part of his duty to be a trial witness. And he was, I know, an important trial witness, but I do know one thing: when all those police cars came up by the house, he hadn't scared my wife's mother, Wealthy Strong, to death, because she didn't know what in the world was coming on. Them police cars were coming there.
So he was one of the last people to talk to Jones before the accident. I mean, just
Right.
less than a minute.
Right, and like I said, I think they hollered across the window or something or other, but he did identify him. And I know that over all the years that we spent together, the time that, like, I'd haul him to the dock, he never bragged about being part of this, and hardly, if ever, mentioned it. But I do know that the book I read was one that Webb had given to the family there. But it was, like I said, he was doing his duty, and I'll say this: he had an ironclad mind. If he saw you, he knew you. If it had been 100 years later, he'd still remembered you. If you struck something there that he saw that made him remember you. And then I know a couple of things too with the marble playing. Dumas Walker, this is a little sideline. Dumas Walker ran the pool hall. I think maybe someone might have bootlegged on the other side of it or something. But my dad would go up there, and he probably maybe bragged as much as Dumas did. And he would tell Dumas, he had a couple of boys that's pretty good marble players. And finally, Dumas got tired of it. He thought, well, why don't we just have a game? So he challenged my two brothers to a game of marbles on my grandfather's private marble yard down on the farm. They came down, went up there, and we all went around together to look at it. And if you're familiar with the language of marble playing, Dumas got slick-tailored. He didn't make the first hole, but Webb did make one hole while he was there that day. So, I mean, that was one of the stories that's been around for a long, long time. But like I said, I still tell that story over and over again there, and I do know that the book itself, I'm a retired history teacher, and if you want to read history of Clay County and this area, you read through there, and it brings up names of stores, names of farms, names of property owners, and you look through and see some of your relatives that were questioned, like Carl Walker, one of my mother's cousins. Of course, Dumas Walker and my mom were first cousins, so I mean, I grew up around him. But most of those folks, they're in Moss. They didn't have a whole lot to say about the trial or anything, but I knew who Webb Lee was. I knew what he was doing from my very, very young days, that he was looking for this man. And it's, like I said, you read that book and it brings back all kinds of old memories. You see Winnie Cherry, we were on the story there. But all those things, it's just an amazing read, whether you're even reading it for the murder trial or whatever, but it brings back memories when you were 10, 12, 14, 15 years old. And I think I was about 19 or 21. When one more thing, when this trial received nationwide and really continent-wide publicity, stories have shown up in newspapers all the way from Ireland to Indiana. And I do know that CBS, they ran extra power lines and extra phone lines so they could do a live broadcast from the courthouse, across from the courthouse in Salina, Tennessee. And one afternoon, I happened to be lucky enough to hear this and see this, but there was a young cub reporter standing there, and he opened up the show with the news that night and said, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Walter Cronkite. I'm reporting to you from the most forgotten, forlorn place I have ever been in my life, Salina, Tennessee. But he did stay there and covered it, and I mean, that was, you have to realize the real importance of what this trial was. And I think that's kind of where I'm at on this. Thank you, John, for inviting me up.
Linda, would you like to share any stories?
No. All the stories are very interesting. I remember most of them, but not all of it.
Yeah. Well, we're so glad to have you too. Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
You have it?
yes.
She made,
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Sure.
I see the maiden name of Overstreet. Is that from the John Overstreet family up in the edge of Kentucky that was in the logging business and on the farm, oil business, all that stuff?
you know any background about your,
Uncle Jim Overstreet, he lived in Casey County.
But is he saying John or Jim?
That, who that Jim referring to is that?
so she was from the Casey County area?
Yes.
That what, Elsie, is that her name?
Okay, I just wondered if she was connected, to the Overstreets there in Clay County
Any connection to the ones in Clay County?
that lived up Kettle Creek.
She was probably a Casey County.
I wanna say a word or two, about the fishing. Me and Uncle Webb, Dad fished a lot. You know how Dad is, we used your granddaddy's farm, a whole lot of fish down there. But Uncle Webb liked to fish with a snare, or we go fish for suckers. And what he fished with, he fits a loop like this, and put a little white something on the bottom of it, and he'd drag it up under fish, and he'd jerk that snare and catch the fish. He didn't use grab hooks like the rest of us. And if I ever was anywhere with anybody fishing, Uncle Webb's the only one fish that way, and it always amazed me how he could hit the turn, and it would be on the fish. But he could snare fish, he'd catch suckers with anybody. But, we done a lot of camping out, and, you would go to Mayshacks, Skaggs, Mill Creek for suckers. That was a good creek, shallow, and we go in, we didn't have to stay all day. He didn't know whether he was there or not, where he was gonna catch fish. But I wanna tell a shooting story on Uncle Webb. He got into the Nationals one year, and he shot against Roy Rogers. And they shot, and that might be where he run out of shells. I don't know how many birds they busted. They were in a shoot-off. And, Webb won one of the shoots, and a year or two later, they shot again. And I think Roy beat him. I ain't gonna say which one the first year, that one the next one. And he said, I wanna tell you something. He said, Roy Rogers wasn't only good with a pistol. And, that's kind of little stories he would tell us when we were growing up. But, when he was setting out the pines, me and my dad, we'd go with him, and, he wanted to be consistent. If you ever looked through them, you could look through a road that way. Every way you stood and looked at the pines, they were fixed so you could drive through them after they were trimmed out. They trimmed them out and sold them, made paper out of them when it's young, and let the trees grow. And they were planted extra in there so they'd stay straight and tall. And, we had the opportunity to have him on the farm. The Roddy track, was sure closed. It's out toward Mount Herman, and down in there, we went down in there and worked with him a lot in the pines, cleaned out, done different things for him. But he was just a good friend, and just, people loved him. He was a good man in the community, and I think everybody respected him. He wanted to make sure everybody was doing all right. And I believe I started to ask John to check his story, Mr. Gid Hollingsworth. Mr. Gid, Webb had bought a new truck, I don't know for sure what kind of Ford Mr. Gid was driving, but he hit Uncle Webb here on the backside of this courthouse and turned him up. And Webb fell down, his truck was on the side and turned it over. This here on town, you can check this history. And Webb said, did you ever try to climb, get out of the window and climb up through a truck? Of course, it's on his side, and he said, that's the only way out, you could go out through the windshield. little stories like that he shared with us. He was just a good uncle, a great person. And Miss Lina was a lovely lady too. I just loved her and appreciated her so much.
And another thing he did was, every week in the Thompsonville News there for a long time, the web spinnings, little stories you put in there, and they were just so entertaining, and most of them full of humor. It's really good entertainment.
I have a little story. I have a little story to tell.
It's big, big.
I have something I just thought of. Yes. My grandmother and grandfather Combs had a store. And she said she remembered when Newt Lee and his wife and the kids, or some of the kids, a lot of them were born after they were here. But they came to Monroe County from Liberty, Kentucky. And she said they stopped at their store and asked if they could, after they got the mill running and everything, if they could have, charge the groceries, and when all the workers and them got paid, they would come there and pay for it. So she told me about that after Johnny and I were married. She said she remembered them coming from Liberty, Kentucky in a covered wagon. They were in horses and wagons and stuff. So I just thought that was.
Yeah, that's another example.
Did it say that it took, how many, well, now I thought I had it in my brain, now it's gone. How long did it take them to get from Casey, 90 miles it took? Was it 4 days or was it more than that? 4 days? 4 days to go 90 miles, yeah, in a covered wagon.
David used to shoot trap with him. He used to, we were talking about this the other day, Uncle Webb, when he shoot trap, he shot with a release trigger.
Yes.
And,
They said
it's, you got anything?
Seen to try to get that release in the throat. Turtle's probably seen him do it. He jarred that down on his knee.
And he would always blow out the barrel.
He'd blow out that barrel, but he shot a release trigger.
So instead of
He had
pulling
one
the trigger,
barrel.
it didn't go, the gun didn't
Just
go off
bring
until
your
you
finger up.
released the
Yeah,
trigger.
his went off. He had one barrel that Archie Stahl fixed for him. It was egg shaped.
Yeah, I was a kid in the trap house, by the way. That's when they shoot over your head.
Because he went to Nashville one Saturday down there. That's when he was looking for all this. And Lina was a lot of them shoots that way.
Of course,
He went to
David there
Nashville.
was our neighbor.
And the wind was coming up in his face. And it was blowing back. Targets was going through that. He told Lina to go to the car and get that other barrel. But it was egg shaped. And I don't know, he broke 98, 99 out of the last 100 in the wind. And I mean, it was blowing, that's when it was closer to the airport where it is now. But, I shot him, I pulled him in the other part when he was practicing. 50 in the morning, 50 in the afternoon on a hand trap at the fairground. And I wouldn't have, 10, 11 years old.
And he told me he'd lay on a bench on his back. He got hurt and was bad, he lay on a straight bench on his back out there.
Yeah. When he was getting ready for a big shoot, he caught it. He practiced twice a day. And he'd go home, man, and he'd reload, and he'd be ready for the next morning, after he got out of the pine tree. And he had that, I think it was a 57, that Chevrolet pickup or that GMC one, that turquoise and white color. It's the one that he got scared, it's in the book, that they was gonna roll him over that bluff down there. And he took Georgia Graham and I one day to ride over that and explained every inch of it. And then he knew, he had found out that bridge had just been opened a day or so before. And this guy that hit his dad was the grader man that graded that bridge, and he knew that bridge was open at night, and that's how he got out of it.
Was that down at Brimstone?
And it's scary.
At Brimstone?
Yeah.
Talking about the Brim?
Yeah, but that bridge had only been open for about a day and a half. And that guy knew it because he had operated the grader for the county. But now he was one interesting character, Will was. I was around him a lot when I was a kid. And then it rubbed off on me, trap shooting too, and it just tickled him to death.
You know, the story that he was telling about the release trigger, me and Paul Boone, the trap shoots that come in when they brought people in from everywhere when they had open shoot. That thing had ended. Mose Dotson was out there, and he told Webb he'd like to shoot that gun. Well, when me and Paul was in the building to pull the clay pigeons, and he had the gun, he forgot he had the trigger pulled, and he shot the building. Well, I mean, it was a wall in the back of it like that, so they couldn't shoot you. But me and Paul was in there and shot, and Paul said, "What do we do?" I said, "I'm gonna stay here till they holler." But, you know, that, we had a lot of fun out there. But Webb Lee, Paul, Everett Boone worked for Webb, and he said of all the shots he'd ever been around, Webb Lee told me this. He said Everett Boone was the best shot he had ever shot again. Everett Boone, a lot of times would break 25 in a row, you know, that's what the shooters shoot. But, Webb went to the Nationals, and about Everett Boone, what made Uncle Webb, he said he usually didn't have a gun. I think Webb might have finally got him a gun, I ain't gonna say that for sure, but he'd borrow somebody else's gun to shoot. He didn't have his own gun. Everett Boone was a good man.
And I want everybody to know too, before we leave, you brought a picture. Tell us about that picture, Donna.
Oh, yes, picture, I don't know where it ended up back there, okay. It's just my picture of my mom during the, trial. And she's in the witness chair, giving her testimony, so, yeah.
Thank you for reading.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have anything else you'd like to share? What?
You know, I don't have anything to share, but I do have a question, since, you know, I didn't get a lot of information about this when I was growing up. So I'm kind of absorbing all this now, and read the book, et cetera, and of course, my mom, was a integral part of the trial, with her testimony. But on the way here from Collierville, Tennessee, my husband, Wade, and I were looking for, Newt Lee's home and his barn, and evidently they're not there anymore, so
The
I
house
was
still
wondering.
stands. The house still stands. The barn, we were talking about that earlier. I think the barn may be gone. They both may be there, but the house is there.
Oh,
I think
great.
it's about the third house back from Cherry's store. There's why we turned.
Is there a physical address for that, does anybody know?
We lived in that house when I was, about 4 or 5 years.
How many houses back from Cherry's is it? You said it's the first house from Cherry's?
Moved actually, let's see.
Which side of it?
Coming
We built
back
a house
this
in
way.
Moss, Tennessee. I've got a history.
If you're at Cherry's,
This was his
how many
house.
houses is it?
And so, we rented the house from probably Welby Lee.
Okay, now you want to
We
go
lived his
time,
house.
Mr. Henderson.
So we got our house built, and he processed
I know
it.
right now,
Whose house was it?
First house.
First house.
On the right, coming
then there's another.
From Miles.
Yeah.
That would be the.
First house on the right, coming from Moss.
When the road splits, you know, in Kentucky.
You know where the road splits, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what
yes.
they're referring to, that Cherry
Yes.
grocery store, the old grocery store there. They're actually kinda, come through there today, they're actually redoing that a little bit
They've
there.
changed it.
But he said it's the first house on the right as you're coming toward Kentucky.
Take care of that.
It's gonna be the
According to
first.
this, it's 256 Tompkinsville Highway.
Okay.
256.
And there is a barn, there is a structure across the street from that still standing.
Wow, okay, cool. Thank you.
Does anybody else have anything real meta?
At some point, that Elizabeth saw live event, Betty was talking about her grandparents running the store, because that's where my mother and her family grew up. And I heard about Newt Lee, Mr. Lee, and Welby, and I've heard about them all my life, so I don't know. This was probably the 20s, when they left there. But at some point, they left a big
I brought a picture. I received an email from someone, a picture, I think, Tim, we were looking, was that 1922? And it's their mail at Big Sulphur, and it shows Elsie, Marie, Stanley, Jack, Welby, Edith as a baby, of course, and it's not real clear, but that was in 1922. It's there on your table.
Somebody wrote how they're lined up.
Yeah, you can read at the top how they're, and you really can't identify how they actually look, but you can see the children there. In 1922, I think it was.
Anybody else have any story or question they wanna share? Yes. Wade, right?
Yes, thank you. Against her better judgment, I was able to convince Mildred Castile's daughter to marry me. So I'm especially interested in her contribution to the trial. So for those of you that actually saw it, the book describes her as being very cool, calm, and collected when she was on the stand. What do y'all remember about her testimony?
Not a lot, but I mean, I think it was just, she knew what she saw, and, you know, I thought she did a fine job, you know. Of course, a lot of times in a trial, they ask specific questions just for, you know, a short, specific answer, but I thought she did really good. I mean,
I think she's cool and calm.
Yeah.
She's on track with what she said.
Yes. Well, even in the book, she never wavered. She knew what she saw. And that happens a lot, so many times now, when you're involved in an investigation and you're questioned so many times, a lot of people will, yeah, but she really knew what she saw and she stuck with it, yeah.
Well, her daughter's the same way, because when I mess something up, she knows it. And she does not let me forget it.
That's all true,
At trial, they would ask the question, the same thing, trying to get the same thing, they'd ask it 2 or 3 different ways to try to get it. She knew where she was and what she was saying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanna say this, I am Dick Lee's daughter, and I never knew your mother, but I read the book. I was in 8th grade and I did a book report on it in school that, I loved Uncle Wells. Dad and Mom used to take me to their house and we would visit, and I remember all those silver trophies that I never forgot that. And I've got some marbles that he gave me, but you look like your mother. You look like the pictures that I've seen of your mom.
Oh, well, thank you. I take it as a compliment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else have anything they wanna share?
I want to read something from the book.
Okay.
But I think, you know, everybody asks you, why did he do it? Why did he, 18 years? And this is the day that Jones came to Clay County. He was meeting him at the courthouse, I guess. They were bringing him to indict him or whatever. And Welby talks about everybody shaking hands and the lawyers. And he says this: Grover's 2 brothers were there to meet him. I shook hands with both of them. The reason I wanted to be nice to all these men, including Grover, was that I still hoped that he would tell the truth so that he wouldn't have to go through a trial and Grover wouldn't have to go to prison. Wow. That's the kind of man Welby Lee was. It wasn't a vindictive thing. He just wanted to know the truth. And he worked all that time just to get the one, but he never would say it, would he? He would never admit that he did it.
Thank you. That's a great way.
I wanna say one thing. John and me, we looked at this a little earlier, and he read that too. And he wanted me to read that. And I wanted him to read that, so I can say this: I wanna thank John. John spent some time in my home, and I guess others, spent time with him and lining this up. And I wanna thank you. I appreciate the things you've done, and I appreciate the stories I've heard here. And, John's been a friend since he's this tall, but he didn't quit growing like some of us.
Yes, that's so true. John really put in a lot of work to be able to get this, book published again, and we do appreciate him. We appreciate all of the Historical Society for, wanting to put this together and working to put this together, and we just are thrilled with everybody who has come today. So you never know how many people are gonna show up for an event, so, we just couldn't be happier to see all of your faces and to hear all of your stories, and we just wanna, just thank you for that. And I do want to make sure though that everybody here signs their name in the guest book. We wanna know everybody who came here, so we can, add this to our history, that we have this, and maybe in 25 or 30 years, somebody will wanna do another one.
Yeah, thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
John.
Please have some
There's the information.
Have some refreshments, get some
Denise,
Yes.
Thomas says he's,
I wanna say one thing.
wait a minute, we got just a couple more things.
Okay, sorry, couple more things.
About what you just read, on the way to prison, after he was in the car on the way to prison, Grover Jones admitted that he killed Granddaddy. And I asked Jennifer, I said, am I wrong about thinking that? And she said, no, she thinks that's true too. He admitted it, and Webb said, can you believe he waited to go into prison to admit to me that he killed my dad? But he did admit it on his way to prison, Grover did. And I asked Jennifer just to make sure I was right, because I was pretty sure I was.
Thomas may have one more thing here. Thomas?
Okay, there is one more thing I have. There is still information on this trial that has never been seen outside of a very few people. Mr. Jim Reno's grandson, Johnny McLaren, that has the antique store in Salina, he actually has the handwritten notes from Baxter Key Jr. of this trial. And I don't think it's been seen outside the Reno family since, I don't know how many years, but he has the handwritten notes. And he is they're gonna get those deciphered and get them typed up and printed where people can see that sometime here in the near future, I think. But that, like I said, all the information is still not all in.
And he was one of the prosecutors?
Yeah, yes. And that,
That's interesting.